Hello and welcome to QUESDAY with Duzie.
Hello. We are here. It is QUESDAY, and this is a wrap-up of Relaunch Your Life, the 5 parts, and also moving towards flow.
So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be taking all of us on a journey, looking back and looking forward. But first of all, my name is Dan.
And my name is Suzie, and together we're Duzie. We are glad that you've joined us here live at the webinar. For those who are here with us and for those who are watching the replay, we also welcome you. Thank you for coming.
We are going to go back and look at the Relaunch Your Life course, not to evaluate it so much, but to see where have you got stuck maybe in it, where are some things that you're working through to really help you finish well. We know not all of you have gone all the way through it yet. In a little bit, we'll take a poll to see where you're at, but to see how do we move well from Relaunch Your Life into the next section, which is called Flow. And from the beginning, we've always planned that we would do Relaunch Your Life into something we call Flow. Originally, we thought we'd do it all as one course, and then we started saying, this is huge.
It's a maxi course.
So yesterday we were out in a nature area with waterfalls beginning to film Flow.
Very exciting.
It's very exciting. It was beautiful out there in nature. I think you're going to really enjoy it. It's not going to be as heavy of a course as Relaunch Your Life.
More of a mini course.
More of a mini course, but we just started editing, and there's just some really cool things about how do we live in the flow.
So take your time and go through it. I'd love to just kick it off by starting a little bit of a review of where we've been in all of these different modules. And we're going to look at the future self.
And one of the reasons we want to review is because there's so much in the course and because there's so much been talking about, sometimes we forget a foundation as we move forward. So we want to recapture those levels as we launch into what's now and what's next.
Yeah, thank you, Dan, for that. So let's just start here with Relaunch Your Life, and you know that's the course. And the foundation of the whole entire course is Zoe Life. And a couple weeks ago we were talking, maybe the course should have been named Zoe Life or Living Fully Alive. But we saw it as such a transition course that we wanted to call it Relaunch. But Zoe Life is the foundation for everything. And really that Zoe Life is living fully alive. John 10:10, Jesus said, I have come that you might live and live life to the full. And that's where this Zoe Life, Zoe is the Greek word, that means living fully alive, a vibrant, contagious being that is fully alive. And that is the foundation that goes through all of the modules.
Now, the interesting thing is, I want to let you in on this. When we read the Bible, we're reading it from Greek. But there's a chance Jesus didn't even speak Greek.
New Testament,
He
right?
spoke Hebrew. And so the word he would have used to be translated into Zoe, what we're looking at, was the word chay, C-H-A-Y. And when you begin looking at the Hebrew word, it is so much deeper and so much wider than just Zoe, because it goes into living, being alive, gusto, but it also talks about being green like vegetation and flowing like a river. One of the reasons we named the next course Flow was because the whole idea that life is not stagnant. We cannot stop. It must continue going. And just yesterday, as we were filming by a river, in the places where the water wasn't flowing, it was stagnant. It was pretty dead. But in those places where there were some rocks and some bumps and it suddenly moved forward, there was real life. There was momentum there. And that's what this word really means. It is sort of the essence of recapturing your kid, who you once were, but moving ahead in that reality.
In
so
a
I get
growing
really excited about Zoe.
So Zoe is really the foundational.
I could go all hour or 2 or 3 on just that word.
And that would also be excellent. The first week we talked about Zoe Life and aim for Zoe. And the concept there was that we show up fully alive with our Zoe life, that we say, I am enough, I have enough, and so I show up. There was a worksheet. We might look at that in a bit. I think that's very foundational as we're living fully alive with that flow of Jesus flowing in us and out. We can also show up and bring life to those around us.
When it comes to rhythms, the key word is intentionality. It is a foundation, and the rhythms don't just happen. If you're not intentional, you'll have the wrong rhythms. So this is the whole idea that in the future you're going, I am able to live this Zoe because I've intentionally chosen the rhythms.
And the one part I love about rhythms and this picture of the heart, this is a sketch of all the intricacies, that's a big word, of the heart and the heart rhythm. So when I first became a nurse, I worked in the coronary intensive care, so people with intensive heart problems. And one of the things we always looked at was the rhythm of the heart and make sure that it is a normal sinus rhythm. And that's what we want. We want our Zoe life to become a regular rhythm, but that happens as we are intentional in growing our Zoe life and putting some of these other aspects into place.
So let's look at the values. In the future, as you look back on your life and did you live life fully alive, one of the key areas will be the values you held.
Yes.
You held on to, and your life is strengthened by those values you choose. And you don't have to have tons and tons of them, but the ones you do have, you have to hold very close, and like inhabiting a house.
Yep, you like move into them and make sure that they happen. And then we talked about your fully alive community, and that's what supports you living fully alive. We're not put on this earth to be all by ourselves, but we have that nest, those people close by us. We also have our eagles that are more experienced, that give the big picture. And then we have our tree where we belong. And many of us live in multiple trees, and we belong to different things like our church and our family and our friend group, and maybe your people who mentor or support you. They're like different trees, and these give you support to live fully alive.
I love that picture, because immediately when I see that picture of the tree, the nest, and the eagle, I can say, where do I need to work? Maybe my tree is not very strong right now. Let me work on developing my community, or my nest, or my eagle. So I've had several people actually talk about that in the future they would love to make sure all three of those are a part of their life.
Yeah, that's been such a great one. Probably that tree in the community was our favorite part of the whole week, of the whole module, all of the modules. And finally, passion, embracing our passion. And this is an exhibit of the fully alive Zoe. Back to, as we're aiming for Zoe and we're living fully alive and we're showing up, we exhibit, not as a show off, here I am, but here I am. This is who God made me. And that puzzle piece is the very important part of passion for us, because you have parts that reach out and we have parts that reach in, and we have to identify all those. And passion and passionality is a new and upcoming course in the next couple of weeks that's going to layer in between, somewhere in the midst of and after flow.
Exhibiting your passion, we like to call it being a museum. And museum is basically when you show up and God gets glory from you being you.
Yes. So just a quick review like that. Now I wonder if you don't mind putting in the chats, which of those parts stood out for you, or which of those parts do you actually have a question about, you'd like us to talk about, any of those or combination of any of those a little bit more.
Just to answer David's question, if you need to, we can go all the way through the end of 2020 with this course.
The end of the year.
The end of the year, or you can, if you just contact us, we can give you extra time, but you will have, from the date you registered, 2 months is what your normal time period will be.
Great. So I'm just going to put the poll out there, and this poll is, where are you at in the course? Have you finished all 5 modules? Are you still working on module 4? Are you somewhere in 1, 2, or 3? Or are you just getting started? So we know that we have many people on different varied levels of the course, and this helps us know a little bit better how to speak to you today and how to catch you up even a little bit.
So 50% are module. Oh, we're good. Just changed as I was speaking. 33% have finished a course. 33% are completed module 4, and 33% are just getting started. That is wonderful.
Now it's changed. Wait.
40, 20, 20.
And the polls are coming in.
Oh, it's like election day here.
So it looks like at the moment there is the most in 1, 2, and 3, 40%, and all the others have 20%. We'll leave that open for just a little bit longer.
And as we go through today, if there's any specific questions about where you're at in the modules, you can type that in. We can go there. If there's something specifically you want us to talk about, please put that in and hit the button on the side that we can see and go directly there, because this time is really for you. But we're also going to be teaching you a tool today that will help you in those moments of life where you seem to get stuck, how to get unstuck. So we're going to get to this tool in just a little bit.
Do we end the poll, or do we?
I think we end the poll. That's amazing.
Thank you so much.
20, 40, and 20. That would be 100% if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, you're so good at math.
Math genius here.
Okay. Lynn says, I sometimes feel like I have a whole forest. I'm guessing that's about your community.
Yeah. So good.
Also, the other area that we have that Nikki has been successful in, but maybe some of you have a story or you have a question and you'd like to actually come on, as in your video would be side by side with us. You can either come on and ask a question and we can process that together with you, or you can just tell a story. What have you experienced in the midst of this? How is God moving in your heart? How has it happened when you're meeting together with your friends? You were chatting about this and you had this new thought or idea come to your mind.
So that's the hand that you can press.
And it says
we have
speak.
No idea how it's going to work this week because they've totally rebuilt the program from the ground up. So we have not been on your side yet.
But what we understand is you put your hand up. We approve for you to come into the space. And then you have to go through a number of screens testing your sound and your audio and your video to make sure it's working, and then you come in. So it takes a little bit of time, but we're okay waiting for you to do that. If at any time you want to put your hand up and come on in and have a chat with us, we would love that. Yeah, so is there anybody who has any particular part of the course you would like us to speak more about? You can type that right there in the chat.
Or we can talk more about flow. We can talk about anything. We talk about my hairstyle. This is your time.
What hairstyle?
I know my hairstyle. It's called Gone with the Wind.
All right. We'll just let you cruise on there. One of the very foundational parts of the course that I just want to remind us of is, first of all, passion. And this is the last week for those of you who haven't been there yet. Passion. Passion is when a human being uses their greatest strengths to accomplish their God-given desires. Talk about that a minute, Dan.
Well, when we first started looking into what is passion, and there are a lot of different thoughts of it, when we started looking at this 15, 16 years ago, we really tried to find what does it mean to be a person of passion. And well, we don't see that animals they may be passionate about something, but it's very much just instinct. We've been given, in my mind, it's like chunks of God's passion. Each of us have some, and we hold on to them, and he gives us our strengths that we may accomplish those passions. And many times those passions are directly connected to desires that we have for other people. So it's a God-designed thing, I think. I don't think that you just have strengths randomly and you saw that, so now you have a desire. God may use a television show to just stir you up to some kind of injustice in the world. Maybe you have a family member that's gone through some kind of tragic disease, and you get involved in that. Maybe something that a social issue that you get your family involved in. Maybe it's adoption, maybe it's foster care, maybe it's feeding the hungry. But there's something that is just sort of taking a hold of you, And you look around and go, why isn't everyone doing this? And it's because it's your God-given desire.
Right.
You're to walk in that. If all of us had the same thing, imagine how much would not get done. Things get done because everyone has individual desires by God, and they use their strength. Why don't you have the same strength as somebody else? Because your task is different.
Right. And I think that the passion goes so much with the Zoe life, in that we have Zoe life from God and we have that vibrant life, but the specific focus, and this is why this is the exhibit or the embracing your passion, you get to show that is because the passion in your Zoe life is where you definitely connect with people who are nearby you. We do that in the community tree as well, but this is where you get to use the life, the vibrant, overflowing life, because you are so uniquely wired, like that puzzle piece.
But I also find within my passion that it's like a hunger that at the moment you're doing it, you can feel so full, so satisfied,
yes, right.
so rejoicing in you did it. But before too long, you have to step in again. It's like they sing. You two used to sing a song. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. And I think with passion, oftentimes you have that you step into it, and you embrace it, and you make a change, you make a difference, and then you start all over again. And I think that's part of life on earth.
And our mission, should you choose to accept it, is to embrace my passion, or that specific Zoe life, so that you will exhibit that fully alive Zoe life. So the passion and the exhibit of it are so connected in so many ways. Yeah.
Let's do the hairstyle. What we want to do here for a moment is we're going to switch gears, because I would love it if you could maybe go take a paper out or grab a journal or something. We want to teach you the problem solution tree. And this, you may have heard about this before. This is the tool we use all the time when we're coaching, because when you are stuck, you think, well, the solution is that. But if you simply say, I'm stuck, that's a solution, you're going to miss a whole lot of what's going on. You'll probably even miss what the real solution is. So Suzie is going to coach me through the tree. And at the same time, I would love you to be thinking of how you would answer these questions for yourself. Now, we're all going to have probably a different problem that we're dealing with, but Suzie's going to coach me through this to help you understand how this tool works, especially as we move through relaunching our life
and living our Zoe fully alive life.
You will get stuck. There are places like, I just can't move on. There have been people so frustrated in this course because, like, why am I still there?
Or why am I living Zoe life today? And many of the days I just feel stuck. I'm not in a good space. I can't take your course anymore. A few people have said, because I just am not able to live fully alive, so I can't take the course. And actually, the course is specifically for you who are struggling with living your Zoe life every day, like me.
But this is one of the coaching tools we use. We want to show it to you. We're also, as we do this, we're going to be watching the chat. So please type in thoughts, questions you have, because we want this to be a very interactive experience.
Yeah, so one of the things I'd love for you to do, as I ask Dan, we're going to start right here on this side. This is the problem side, and this is the solution side. And we're going to go in depth, and we're going to start with the problem or the challenge or where you're stuck. We've used those words interchangeably. So it might not be a problem to you. You just might feel stuck, or you're not so fully alive like you'd like to be.
So if you don't really understand my artwork here, this down here are the roots. This is the trunk of the tree. On this side, you have some branches, but they're going off into death. And this side going into life. There's some greenness here. If we didn't need the space, I'd put some fruit there. So this is one tree, but this is the problem side. This is the solution side. So if you just write that, and then Suzie's going to help me figure out one, and we'll see where it goes.
All right. So if you have a problem or a challenge or where you feel a little bit stuck, we'd love for you to put it right there in the chat. And meanwhile, I'm going to use Dan as an example, and maybe you can understand this a little bit. Okay, David has a question. What about when things where you don't know whether it's a problem or solution. It's just unknown. Great question, David. That's right.
There's a lot of that.
I think when you feel stuck, or you don't feel fully alive, or you don't feel like you're overflowing with life, any of those items could go right here on this problem side, or this challenge side, or the stuck side. What about you, Dan? What's a problem that you can identify that we can work on during this time together? Something where you're stuck.
Something real, where I'm stuck.
Yep.
I think I'm going to use the same one I used earlier, because we did this before, and I started getting someplace, but I think I want to go farther into the whole area of not getting enough sleep.
Okay, so your problem is not getting enough sleep.
Right.
Okay.
Now, in the first webinar we did, it just came off the top of my head, and Susie started coaching me through this, and I started getting some great revelation of what I need to do, but I don't think I'm done yet.
Right. When we were talking about our Zoe life, especially in our rhythms, module 2, we were talking about how to be fully alive and have rhythms in your mind, your body, your spirit, and your creative. So David, you'll get there shortly, but one of the ones, especially with the body, we talked a lot about sleep, because studies show that when we don't get enough sleep, we don't get that reset in our body. We don't have the full capacity that we need. And studies say that most people do not get enough sleep. So this is a common problem.
Right. And I would say it's a problem for me, because I would love to be aiming for 8 hours. I may be hitting 5.
Okay. Wow.
And so I'm in bed longer than that, but my mind, and I just, it is a problem. I need to have more just to be able to function as God has created me to function.
Okay. So sleep, you've identified that, and you can exist on less sleep than I can. We found this between the two of us, but you still need sleep, and 5 you're feeling is not enough.
Right. And so here's what most people do at this point. Well, there's the problem, the solution, go to bed earlier. Not the solution. We're going to find the solution, but we're going to take the long way around, and I think it's going to be very different than that.
Okay, so here's the area we'd like to identify. Now let's move up into the fruit area. If you are not getting enough sleep, what are some of the effects? So we're going to look at the effects of whatever your problem is. What would you say some of the effects of you not getting enough sleep is?
Well, obvious tiredness.
Okay, tired, sure. What else?
I'm even finding that my speech is sometimes, Susie was saying the other day that I'm repeating words. And
almost like a stutter.
I think it right there. I think it's because I'm tired.
Your brain isn't able to keep up with where you're at. Okay.
The way it should be.
So stutter. The DDER. Okay. Repeat words. Okay. Thank you for just being so honest with us. What else? What are other effects? And it's very good in this area to try to come up with about 10 if you can, because usually when you just get a couple, you hit on the obvious things. And when you go deeper, you get some of the deeper things that you maybe wouldn't have thought about.
I think because going to bed is a lifestyle, it's a control, it's a self-control. Because I wake up in the morning, I didn't get the sleep I wanted, I wake up almost in a failure state. Oh. That means I'm not in control throughout the rest of my day.
Okay.
Susie and I do this thing every morning. We make our bed together because we know if you make your bed, you're successful. But I think when you wake up so exhausted, it causes this drain all through the day.
Okay, so you feel drained. So you feel like you're starting without a proper start, like you're already behind.
Right.
Is this what I understand?
Yeah, the gun went off and the race started, and I was still sitting in the bleachers.
Okay.
So it's like
that's a great
running.
That's a great. Many of us who don't get enough sleep, we probably understand what Dan's talking about here. What else? What else would you identify? You talked about control. Can you say a little bit more about control?
Well, most things in life that happen is because we chose to do it or chose to do something else. So we do have a lot of control. I have a lot of control in my life, but I have so many other things I want to do besides sleep that it's almost like my day can't end yet. So okay. I try to push myself to do so much, thinking that, wow, it's going to make this day good, but it sort of destroys the next day.
Okay. So
it's a vicious cycle.
You push to do more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Vicious cycle. I want to live a victorious cycle.
Vicious cycle.
So when you go to bed late, you wake up tired, you will live tired. Because you're tired, you want to do more in the night, so you stay up later. It's not good. Okay.
So they say lack of sleep also affects eating. Speak to me about how not getting enough sleep is affecting your eating, maybe choices, exercise.
I would say because of my lack of control to go to sleep, then it probably affects, if I have a good night's sleep, I wake up and I probably have more of a healthy breakfast. But if I'm getting up tired, I'll just grab something. And then that doesn't satisfy, so I'll grab something else and grab something else. And probably my eating through the day probably should be looked at. And a lot of it will stem back to didn't get enough sleep.
Okay.
For me.
So you also, I understand your situation, but maybe some of our friends don't. What is your situation? Is it because you're sleeping too long? You're not going to bed early enough? What is your situation with not getting enough sleep? Help us understand that a little bit.
Yeah. I think that the reason I'm not getting enough sleep has to do more with creativity than anything else. There are certain things in the day that I have to get done. Those are things. We sit down in the morning, we plan what we're going to do the day. Those have to get done. But then I also have 100 other ideas, a book that needs to be written.
Something that spontaneously came up.
And so those are fun. I love those. So I step in and do those. But I also have this list that we made earlier that I have to get done. And so there's this continual, I want to do this, I have to do this, I will do this, but I love that. And I think also during the day I don't rest a lot. So I think there's this continual momentum of must do, want to do, and then the wrestling there with who am I to be in the midst of that.
Okay, who am I even?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a great picture. So Dan has identified some of the effects of what he's identified as this problem of not enough sleep is causing these effects in his life. Now let's go down.
So oftentimes if you're stuck, all you do is you focus there, but you really have to look at what are the effects of being stuck. So that's a very important connection.
Yep, the effects. But let's go deeper. What are some of the core reasons? And I think you've already started to go there. What are some of the core reasons that you do not get enough sleep? I think you talked a little bit about it. You have a lot that you want to do.
Yep.
Right?
My steps. I take my steps every day. Oftentimes I'll find it's 10 or 11 at night and I haven't got my steps in. So out comes the mini trampoline and I'm jumping and watching TV, or Susie and I sometimes are just talking, jumping away. So I take some of my energy that should have burnt off earlier in the day and I burn it off at night. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely one thing that happens. I think also my phone, there's all this stuff that I probably didn't catch during the day because I was working so much. So who was where?
You have FOMO.
Who got married?
FOMO.
Yeah, who got married and who do I need to contact and what if someone got a hold of me? And so I have this light source beaming at my head. I've just filled my head with all kinds of stuff. And wow, that video, I could make one of those. Maybe I'll do that here before midnight. You know, it's that kind of thing.
So FOMO, for those of you who don't know, it's fear of missing out. So something pricks your mind and you don't want to miss out. And you just stay in that space. So you have a lot you want to do. You come to the end of the day and you don't feel like you've done enough. Exercise, you're trying to have your rhythms of exercise.
I mean, get this, it isn't because I didn't do enough for others. It's for myself. I love to get things done. I really enjoy that.
He has a doing personality. So I think this is where who God made him and how he puts his rhythms and values in place has an effect on his highest level of quality living.
But it's affecting my sleep.
Yep. Okay. So you've got your doing, your exercise, your FOMO, anything else. What makes you not be able to shut off at night? That's what I hear you saying is your real problem with sleep. You're not able to turn off your amazing brain? It just keeps humming.
Some of it may be because I did try to do too much, that I didn't accomplish everything. So okay. I think it's accomplishment, but it's also I didn't take time to celebrate the amazing things that did happen during the day. Yesterday, we went out and we filmed all kinds of things. The whole course that's coming called Flow, we did a lot of the filming. It was a wonderful day. And instead of celebrating that, I came back and immediately started editing. And I think I have to take time to celebrate, to almost release myself from there's more to do. And wow, my team won the Super Bowl or whatever. I wasn't going for a team, but it's that kind of thing we have to celebrate.
Okay. So we've got a lot of, we call these roots or foundational or causes of this problem. So these are some of the mindsets or some of the realities in his world, and that is causing him to have these effects. So let's move over here to the solution side, if you don't mind. So of course we said no sleep, and we could put here sleep, but what would be a solution or something that you could go for that would be motivation oriented to you? You'd say, yeah, that is worth going for.
So is that for like the future self, where I want it to be?
This could be future self. Yeah, your solution, where you're going for. Yeah. So no sleep, sleep. Just think about some of the effects you talked about, maybe some of the roots. What would be something you could identify that's worth going for?
Yeah, my mind still goes to the word peace.
Peace. Okay. Can you unpack that a little bit? What do you mean by that?
Peace is not just rest. It's not just sleeping. It's the fact that I can unplug and say it's okay. It's what the Sabbath is for, where you realize you step away and life still goes on. God is still in control. And so I think the sense that if at 9 o'clock at night I knew I lived this day well, I celebrated well, there would be peace to rest.
Okay. So peace. So you notice it didn't just go to sleep. It's more of a peace, an internal, actually fruit of the Spirit of God. So peace. Let's go down deep to down here on this solution side. Let's go down to what changes do you need to make in order for the peace to be okay? And you named it, peace or being okay to unplug. What are some of the changes in your life, in your mind, in your rhythms, in your values, in your, I don't know, maybe even your community or your passion, ways to identify that we can list deep-seated root type things that you can change that will lead towards peace?
Yeah, I think every morning or the mornings that we get together and we look at what is the to-do list of the day, we make that very clear so we know here's what we need to do, here's what we need to accomplish for the day. And that's before I have all the other stuff I want to do as well. Maybe it would be great if towards the end of the day, maybe 8 o'clock at night, we sit down and actually put into words what we were able to do. We somehow, it's more than celebrate. It's that we officially say, we did it. We did it. It's done. Maybe it's a supper time. I don't know. My life many times is 3/4. So I have morning, I have afternoon, I have evening.
3/3.
3/3. Sorry.
Yes.
The other quarter is when I try to sleep. I think if I have those three, that one of them I can focus in on do the plan. One, I could focus in on some of the new creative ideas and have permission to do that. But then we could stop that and say, we did it.
Yeah.
And then we could have that time of just peace and rest. But I have to have it in 3/3 because sometimes our most work will be in the evening because we're speaking at a show. We're doing something. We're leading an event. So then I would probably need to have the third that was more restful, maybe in the morning, and adjust that because our schedule is so changing because of the kind of ministry we do.
Yeah, so that's great. 1/3 time. So you identify when the jobs need to be done, and you try to get a rest or peaceful time in that will prepare you for sleep. And I also heard you say a lot, you need to identify accomplishments. For example, if you don't mind, I'll just give an example from yesterday. We went out and we filmed Flow, and Dan worked hard on some of the different segments to edit the video and put those video parts together. As you know, there's multiple videos in the courses. In Flow, there will be less videos and less worksheets because we want it more of a mini Flow kind of a course. But at the end of the day, Dan needs to show off his video. Like, I finished this one, watch it. And I think that's it, one version of your celebration. When we used to live in Michigan, he would always go across the street and show off his article, his project, his anything to his mom and his dad if he was home. And that was a bit of a celebration. Like, I did it. This is some way that I can celebrate. And I think that 1/3 time and a bit of a show and tell.
Yeah, a recap.
Really, okay, so
I think Susie does that as well for me. If she's researching, she's been doing so much research, she needs to have a time to say, here is what I learned. Here is what we can put into place. And I need to say, and here's the video I made, or here is this concept, or maybe Elijah is part of this whole thing, and just having that sort of a debrief, whatever we call it. Show and tell. I like that.
Yeah, show and tell. I should write that down. Show off, show and tell. Yeah.
I like show and tell better than show off.
Okay. No show off, show and tell. So these are very, very interesting when we're looking at some of these deep areas. Down at the bottom, when it's the problem, we identify the problem. In this way, we're working towards this peace solution. And I think you've come up with a number of things that are really, they're great. And we're going to have to take a picture of this and put this
I want you to notice
into your life.
We started with lack of sleep, and now we're talking stuff like daily schedule and celebration.
Show and tell.
And this is very, very important. When you do a problem solution tree for where you are stuck, you need to stop and look, go, whoa, I didn't even see that coming. Because usually if you pinpoint, that's probably the main issue. It's not that I didn't go to bed. It was that I didn't do my 1/3. And so you identify those things.
Great. So we've got the lack of sleep. We went to the effects. We went down deeper. What are the causes? Over here, we went to changes that need to be made in order to go towards this solution, which he's identified as peace and being okay to unplug at the end of the night. So tell me, what are the effects that you will see in your life? What will your future self effects look like? Let's identify some of those.
Oh, wow. Well, just one of the effects, I think, when I was talking about the phone, is that there'll be a time where this ends.
Okay.
There will be a, I think part of the go is to, even if I just get that picture out there, to be able to say it is finished.
Okay.
I think that, and that it is finished very well. I love when God created, he said, this is good, this is good, this is very good. And then he rested. So I think I have to have a time to acknowledge that.
It's finished, that you say this is the end. I would also identify that as boundaries, that this is a time when you say, well, that's enough. And maybe it's a time boundary. Maybe you got enough of the project done, but it's good that you can have a limit where you say it's enough.
I think for Susie and I, one of our issues oftentimes is we don't put good margins into our life. And so I think this would allow us to have margins, that we don't go full to the edge and exhaust ourselves, but we give that space to actually live.
Yeah. So another couple ways we can look at margins are guardrails, like on a road, especially where there's a cliff where you could fall off. So a margin is like that. If any of you do bowling and you throw the ball down, there is what's called a gutter. So it catches it.
I know the gutter very well.
So it doesn't go off. And these margins are really important in our life. You notice in our Bible, the print version of the Bible, there's always margins. in books, there's white space margins around so that we can focus on the things that are necessary
And
to
the
focus
best
on.
books have the most white space because then I can doodle.
What else? What other, what are your emotions going to look like?
Well, definitely peace.
Okay.
Peace will be there.
What will peace look like?
I don't think it's just peace. I think it's also connection. Because I think I am a person, I transform life through creativity. So it's about life. It's about transformation. And so somehow I'll be able to connect that my life today mattered for someone else. Or because it isn't just, look what I did. I don't really care about that. But what I just spent 2 hours doing, could that somehow bring life to somebody? Okay. And so I think it's that evaluation.
So you're going to evaluate and identify that this was a worthwhile way to use my life. Right.
And I think that oftentimes I don't find that for myself. So what I'm seeing in this is that this connection has to be with you or with other people.
With you.
That they would be able to say, I saw that happen. Every time we finish a webinar, Susie and I sit on the couch right there and we go through a win evaluation. What went well? What needs to improve? What would we do next time? And I think that's something we probably need to do, for me at least, every day. Just a win evaluation. Just takes 3 minutes, but to be able to allow my brain to see it did matter. Tomorrow I can do something else, but tonight I don't need to.
Okay, so up here I feel like you've given us action steps. I feel like this is what your life will look like if you take, you're going to get here if you take these action steps. But I want you to paint me the picture of you as a person. What will your life look like? Here you talked about tired, stuttering, you feel drained and behind, you're pushing to go for more, vicious cycle, gotta do more. What does this life look like? We started to identify it, but paint me the picture.
I think it would be alive 360.
Oh, alive. Can you help us understand that?
When I'm creating, I'm very much alive. When I'm writing new things. Sometimes when I'm working on the projects that we said had to be done, I'm also alive. But there's that last little bit of the day where I just need to get striving for a little bit more. And I think that this would help me to say there is aliveness in the void of doing something. There is aliveness 360, and it would give me a much better whole life. Okay.
So I said no striving. This is sort of how we describe the flow. You're in the zone and you're in that happy zone as well. That's great. A couple messages here. Ely said, good evaluation together. Focus on accomplishment. You will be released. And I think that's what we're talking about with the celebration piece as well. Thank you for that mention. And that, Lynn said, she said, that being go to bed earlier.
Yep. And so we started off looking at sleep, but we got to a very, very different place. This is a lifestyle change, a mental change. Something that I need Susie and maybe other people for. There's been a lot of differences. Because for me, there's been times where it's like, I just need to go to bed. But 3-4 hours later, I'm still laying in bed because my mind has not shut off to how to do that better and how to write it, and actually end up getting out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's for me, it has to be more than just go to bed. Right. It has to be, I have to finish.
You have to identify when you finished or when you've done enough for the day. Some of us, like me, I really have to identify and deal with I am enough, and Dan has to deal with I have done enough.
So this
wait, we're not done yet.
Tuesday is not just about me. It's about a tool that we all can use to help us find the new self.
I don't want to just leave it here. What is 1 or 2 action steps that you can take today to put some of these solution ideas that we've talked about into place? Action step. Because if we only come to the idea of what we want to do, we've been talking about this a whole Relaunch Your Life course. If we only come to the idea, but we don't put it into action, then we're missing out. A mindset change is already a good step towards it. And James says, faith without actions is dead. So if we only believe it, but we don't put actions to it, it's almost dead. It's nicely on the board. It's nicely in our mind, but what can you do action-wise?
The immediate thing that comes to my mind is when I was a little kid, you would watch television till 11 o'clock at night. And then the station would go off the air and it would have someone that said, thank you for joining us. This concludes our daily program. And then they would sing the American anthem and the TV would shut off. I think for me, the phone is going to have a lot to play in this, because I think somehow I have to come to a time, I don't know if it's 8 or 9, whatever, where I literally will write down, I did this, and evaluate my day. Maybe I send it to somebody. Maybe there is I sign off from the day, click, and I shut it down.
Somebody in your net, net community.
Somebody or people that I'm accountable to, but it's where I can actually acknowledge this day was good. I was fully alive, and now I rest. So that's probably a very tangible way for me to do it. I just have to think of who is in that, but that would be for me permission to peace.
So I think here we've talked about our relaunch your life in many of the ways. Great action step right here. I tried to capture it so we can take a picture and try to keep that humming in your life. We've talked about rhythms. We've talked about what we value. We've talked about our community. We've talked about passion. We've talked about who we are. I think so many of these things connects to what we've been talking about in this whole course. So David says, I'm sorry I've got to run now, but I really appreciated this. It's been a wonderful insights. Thank you. God bless you all. Keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you, David, for joining us. And God bless you as you carry on in the course. Just let you know,
David, in the flow course, we're going to release this tool. So it's something we'll also teach somewhere in the flow course.
Yep.
So it'll be there. Just wanted to give a little example of
it. Excuse me.
Nastrovie.
Great. So any questions, comments, emotional outbursts? How did this hit you today? And if you're willing, what is one of your problems or challenges that we could just talk about for a moment, or that we could pray for you about? Anybody want to put that out there a little bit? I think maybe Lynn's is also going to bed earlier. She has a lot on right now as we've been talking. Yeah. Also, just if you see an area in your life where this tool would be helpful for you, just write a yes in there. That yes, it would be. And we do want to offer the service to you that if you are really stuck someplace and you can't get through these, we could help coach you, just like Suzie did with me, just asking the right questions to come to that, which to me, that's my flow now. That's where my life is going to flow. Yeah.
So if you need help in that, we can help you with that. Nikki, such a great method. I'm trying to decide what some of my major hiccups are. Hang-ups are, so I can make a tree for each one.
And that is an amazing, solution right there, is that different problems that we have will need a new solution tree. And you've got the picture there. That's great. If you need help, Nikki, I'm happy to be there to go through that with you.
My advice, though, is like when they forested our front yard, they got all the trees, they took one at a time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be very overloaded. So I wouldn't even say spend a lot of time looking at all of them. Just as you see one, identify it, draw the tree, spend a week or so working on one. God is gracious. And it usually took a long time for those trees in our life to grow, those problems to grow.
Big.
And we need to take time to move them from spinning us downward in a vicious cycle to upward in a victorious cycle. So I would just say take one at a time. You have time. You do.
Yeah. So just on my personal side, one of the areas that I've been a little bit stuck in is that I have on my list, I have a list on my computer because I have it or on my phone because I have it with me all the time. And I can remind myself of all the things that I need to do, not necessarily that I need to do more, but just so that I don't miss those things that are very important and time oriented. And so one of the recommendations that I've been reminded of is that I choose my top 3 priorities of the day. So just like we chose our values, what are some of the priorities of the day that we can have that if I can't get 10 things done, what are my top 3 that I need to have? And the program that I have, it's just the reminders with my iPhone, and I'm able to move my list up to the top. And then they come up at the top, and I know those are the most important, and I can be able to do that. So that also helps me. Nikki, you say you have, some of your major hangups. Maybe just choose the top 1 or 2 that's going to affect you with the most peace, the most joy, allow your fully alive self to be able to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Dickie.
Anybody else? You have a comment? Just in our being, I also want to take us back to a moment of the being. Just for a second, we talked about this the other day, and where we are is in the middle of where we were and where we're going. And we can't forget that we're not stuck. We are in a process of becoming. And where I am, the being of where I am in the process of becoming, I'm going to be a different being when I get there. And the being that I am now, the being that I am now and the being that I'm going to get to are going to be me. But hopefully, because we're identifying and working on those areas that will allow us to be more free and fully alive, as we're becoming, we're going to get to another spot. And we want to encourage you to be who God created you to be, the fully alive version of you.
Yeah. So we've basically come to the conclusion today. We've walked through this, talked a little bit about flow. Flow is, I'll just give you an overview of where we're going with flow. Flow is the 4 letters, F-L-O-W, and it's all about, F is focus on your Father. There's a shift that oftentimes we need to do when we're looking at living Zoe life. I grew up always saying, dear Jesus, almost as if, the father was in an old folks home and had to talk to his son. There's a real richness in speaking directly to the Father. The next area is lean into your shh. Our life is
being
very
still.
busy. And I need that. You need that, especially in the world we live. Be still and know that He is God. So we're gonna spend a whole week looking at stillness, and then we're going to observe our fear. We're motivated by 1 or 2 things, fear or desire. And then there's several offshoots of those, but oftentimes we don't stop and look at what we're afraid of. And when we acknowledge this is what I'm afraid of, oftentimes we can move in flow beyond that. But as long as there's this just dark cloud hanging around us, it's very difficult. So we're going to learn how to observe our fear. And the last area is
walk in courageous imagination. So
nice.
Having courage to overcome the fear, the desire becomes a greater goal than that. And we have courage, and we have the power of God's Spirit in us to be who we are and to imagine it, believe it, and go for it. And
courageous imagination is like a trip to Disney World.
Courageous imagination is our theme for 2020. So we're living in that courageous imagination, courage and imagination, faith putting together.
And it's interesting because even in the word faith, there's this aspect, like in Hebrews, that it is impossible to please God without imagination. There is this context there that is like, why did God give us imagination? Because He knew someday we'd be facing a giant, and our mind can already take us to the point of that giant laying down on the ground with a stone in its head. That's where faith comes from. And if we deny the imagination, we're not going to move forward. But in that, we need to have courage. And courage means risk. So it's risky imagination. It's stepping into wonder because you know it's right. But you got to be brave as you go. That's where we're going with flow.
So you're going to find the flow course in the same place where you found Relaunch Your Life. And right now we have a square that you can click on. But by tonight, the enrollment will be open. And we'll also send you an email to message you about how to do that as well. But for those of you who are still working on the Relaunch Your Life, just carry on. Flow is part 2. And we will continue with daily videos. We have now been going since the middle of June.
I think it's
with
230.
daily videos. And our daily video for after flow will be on parts of the Lord's Prayer in the first week. And so we're getting that ready, and that's very exciting to look at.
The 5 verses,
focus on the Father.
The 5 verses of the Lord's Prayer have 7 principles for flow.
You were excited to
unbelievable.
Let that flow. Yeah, so thank you so much again for joining us. We have appreciated doing this journey. Hopefully this problem solution tree has been a helpful tool to you, and we can't wait to continue to journey with you in any way, shape, or form. Thank you so much for joining us.
We're loving life.
And we're seeing good days.